Hey, I'm Rachel.
And I'm Amanda.
I'm Hannah.
And I'm Kathleen.
And this is the federal election edition of Beyond a Ballot, powered by DoorDash.
Welcome to Beyond a Ballot for Friday, April 4th. I'm Hannah Thibodeau. We've seen contenders dropped, resignations encouraged, and campaigns scrambling behind the scenes. So what's going on with candidate vetting, and how do these major red flags sometimes slip through? Let's go to our gang here at Beyond a Ballot. Amanda, let me start with you. Talk about the areas that are vetted, and anybody else jump in because this is fascinating what gets vetted.
Sure. So you can think of vetting kind of like HR for politics, right? And it's usually done by, it could be a committee or a team comprised of like lawyers and comms experts and party officials. And they're looking at a few areas. One of the areas they look at is your personal conduct in history. Do you have a criminal record? Do you have past bankruptcies? Are there any financial issues? They're looking at your employment history, your qualifications, any major conflicts of interest. Then they're going to your online presence. And this is where they usually unearth the bad stuff. So social media posts, those that are especially racist or sexist or homophobic or have extremist content. They're looking at old blog posts, forums, Reddit, YouTube comments. They're looking at past interviews that could be online, big public statements. And then obviously they're looking at political alignment. So your consistency with the party values, your membership in other political parties or in radical organizations, a history of public criticism of the party or its leader. We saw this with J.D. Vance. You'll remember in the U.S. that he had been critical of Donald Trump. That really dogged him through the campaign. So those are like kind of the major areas. I don't know, Kathleen and Rachel, if you have any others to add from your political parties.
Yeah, Kathleen, go.
I think one thing that's really interesting is there's two types of candidates, right? There's the kind of candidates that the party goes after themselves. They'd be called a star candidate or a supernova candidate. And then there's candidates that actually come to the party wanting to run. So if they're a known quantity, if they're a star candidate, the party probably knows much about that person already, right? So they're not as difficult to vet. It's the people that walk up to the office and say, hey, I want to run for your party, that's where the deep vetting comes from. And sometimes it's all that, new technology stuff that I'm sure Amanda can speak about, but I can also speak about like the old school, get your researcher to saunter over the courthouse and pull some files. Because we used to do that too. And you find these things and then sometimes you have to have really tough conversations, right? And there's always this amazing line or question on all candidate questionnaires, which is there anything else you'd like to reveal?
Yes, I was going to talk about that.
That could be damaging to the party's reputation. And that's basically the parachute, right? That the party has to be like, if you didn't disclose this, we get to boot you.
Oh, yeah.
Rachel, tell us about some of the questions.
What? So I've been the person that often you'll have to interview candidates. And so you go through everything that they put on their disclosure form and you ask them about the bankruptcy and how much money they have, et cetera, et cetera. So that line, is there anything else you want to tell me, is my favorite line because there's an awkward silence and then they confess everything, even if it is not even applicable. The things that they get nervous and tell you are so amazing. So I would say that is there anything else you want to tell me? And it is really true. And it kind of plays to the human nature of people because there are people that put their name on the ballot. They want to run and they are so dedicated to being the candidate and they just get nervous and want to make sure nothing is going to hurt their chances of doing that.
If I were to pull back the curtain on you guys, is there anything you can disclose about kind of the most odd or weirdest thing that you saw on those forums, and not by identifying anybody?
There's a lot of nudity in people. Oh, right. Yep. There's a lot of people that have nude pictures and they disclose them. People tell you, you might Google me and find this naked photo shoot I did 10 years ago. Yep. You'd be surprised how many people do.
Rachel, did those naked? Did you ever go ahead with a candidate?
Oh, yeah.
With the history of naked photos? Oh,
absolutely. There are some electeds, I'm not going to say where or what level of government, that have naked photos online. And that's just who they are. And they were elected and they're great at their jobs.
Nakedness, okay, tick.
Yeah.
Anybody else want to jump in on that one?
Well, before marijuana was legalized, post this Trudeau government, I had a candidate that got through the vetting process, and then we discovered him online smoking 65 joints at once.
How many?
Yeah. So that was.
Did you say 65?
Yes, yes. Or definitely dozens and dozens. Maybe not quite 65, but maybe 40. Anyhow, ridiculous. So he had to also be, punted mid-campaign. And that was a time in the 2008 campaign, similar to actually what's happening now in 2025, where there gets to be almost like a little bit of a body count where the candidates start to stack up on all the different party sides. Because we've seen at least, 2 now in the Liberals, at least 1 on the Conservatives, maybe more. So they start to, build and build and build.
So what is the final decision for a party to say you're out? And who makes that decision, Amanda?
Well, it could be made by usually the kind of steering committee that's put together as the vetting or the candidate committee. And I think that there's 3 things that could really happen. They either drop the candidate, so they don't become a candidate, they don't get the nomination, they don't get to move forward. They run the candidate, obviously. And some people, frankly, get through the vetting process and then it's an issue, right? And we've seen this percolate in the election. I don't think election has gone by where we haven't seen it come up, where a candidate has got through the vetting process and then something comes up and it was missed in the vetting process. And then the parties really have to make another decision. Are they going to let this person stay on the ballot? Is it risky enough that, they don't want to take those headlines that are going to, follow them through the entire campaign, or are they going to drop the candidates? And we've seen parties do both things.
I think that when you're talking about what it is that they are, what are some of the criteria of deciding whether or not to drop a candidate? A couple of things that they also take into account. One is whether or not the ballots have been printed, whether or not the deadline has passed to refill that seat. So sometimes if it's early enough, you can replace that candidate. Right. So that's a consideration. The other thing is the chance of winning that riding. You will see that people will be dropped very quickly if there isn't really a chance of winning that riding, because they're way more of a liability than a benefit to the party at that point. In seats that are really close, and we saw that even this week with the Liberals, a seat that is split between the Conservatives and the Liberals, they dragged their feet on that decision and it hurt them, but it was a seat that they could have potentially won. And that probably played into that.
So this Monday is the deadline for candidates to be nominated. What happens if the person's dropped after that deadline and their name stays on the ballot? This may sound like a dumb question to us, but I think listeners wouldn't know the answer to that. Kathleen, you want to do that one?
Yeah, so that's why the flurry of action has happened in the last few days of candidates off, because the parties still had that opportunity to change those ballots. But as of Monday, April 7th, those ballots are set. And therefore, anyone who's on the ballot printed their name, they will go and people have the opportunity to still vote for them. That means the party may not be able to have its full slate of candidates of 343 candidates across the country. It also means that somebody might get elected in that riding that the party doesn't want to disavow. And so if they happen to, have incumbency or name recognition and they get voted in anyhow, then the party still has to disavow them and essentially make them sit as an independent.
So they can still sit. Rachel, you had a story about that.
Yeah, we had that actually in the municipal campaign in Vancouver, where one of the, I think it was school board candidates, ended up running with the political party and winning because people went and voted and only voted for all the candidates from the political party. He now sits as an independent, but he won. And a lot of people say that's because he was on the ballot with that political party.
Well, all of these brilliant women have been deep in the trenches of campaign strategy. And tomorrow, they are going to be spilling the tea on gaffes that shook election campaigns. Now, campaign missteps, unforgettable blunders, moments you won't believe actually happened. It is going to be a must listen. So don't forget to tune in.
Thank you for listening. New episodes come out daily, and you can find Beyond a Ballot on Instagram and wherever you find your podcasts. A huge thank you to our title sponsor, DoorDash, and sponsors Equal Voice, Page, and Canada Powered by Women for making this election special possible. Speak to you tomorrow.